A Nintendo Switch 2 has been rumored for a long time, but as each new day goes by, the release of the next Nintendo console becomes more and more imminent. The Nintendo Switch has already reached the longest lifespan of any Nintendo console ever, as we're nearing its 7th year. But one of the reasons the Switch has been on the market for so long is because it's just a great product, and it's continued to sell millions and millions of units. Because of this, the next Nintendo console will almost certainly function similar to the Switch, being a hybrid that offers both portability and at-home play. But with that being said, the Switch is awesome, but not perfect. There's still so many new features a successor to the Switch could offer. And frankly, some of these are features the Switch should have had from the beginning and still doesn't today. So today, I'm going to be going over 10 improvements that the new Nintendo Switch absolutely needs. Starting with an obvious choice, themes. Seriously, how do we not have themes on Switch still? Nintendo, just give me a JPEG to put on the background of my Switch's menu, or let me use some of those in-game screenshots that you let us take as the background. The only themes we ever got are basic white and basic black. Like, we can't even get a red or a blue? Even the names of basic white and basic black imply that there are other shades that just aren't as boring. Yet, this is all we have. The 3DS handled themes perfectly, with moving backgrounds, music, unique folders, and outlines for games, sound effects, startup jingles. Now we get virtually nothing. What's even dumber is that with the 3DS, Nintendo set the precedent for people paying for themes. So they could easily charge for themes on Switch, making it a massive incentive for them to do so. They would make bank off this. Seriously, imagine opening up your Switch to the theme of New Donk City with Jump Up Superstar playing in the background. Or maybe we could get panning shots of Tears of the Kingdom's Hyrule with piano melodies drifting throughout the breeze. In this screenshot that shows you that only 4% of our viewers are subscribed. If you guys like our content, just check if you're subscribed. If not, it's free, and we got a ton of great content coming out to start 2024. Seriously, it would mean a lot. But yeah, a subscribe theme would be cool too. Oh, and maybe a like the video and comment. Okay, I'm done with that. Seriously though, I understand Nintendo likes minimalism, but this is just way too bland. The Switch in general could use a lot more personality. There's minimal options for organizing your games. There's no eShop music, title cards for the channels like the Wii. There's no Mii Maker, it's buried in the system settings. Even the GameCube had an iconic startup screen, whereas the Switch you get a black screen and a Switch logo with no sound. They don't need to completely redo the entire UI for the Switch 2, but it should feel like a second console with more personality, options, customization. Themes would be the perfect start to this. From the beginning, the Switch's online has been disappointing. Nintendo ended up delaying the paid subscription service a year because they wanted to have it fully fleshed out upon release, and then they ended up releasing a pretty bare-bones service anyway. Now, the offerings have become a bit better over time, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these features such as NES, SNES, the expansion pack, cloud game storage, all of these will probably return at the launch of the next system, as Nintendo stated that they want their next console to be an easy transition from Switch owners. However, there's still a lot of missing features, especially when you compare this to PS Plus or Xbox Game Pass / Xbox Live, whatever they're doing over there. For instance, this service does not offer party chat or even in-game voice chat. Yes, I know there's an app, but not a single person is going to use it. It doesn't count as a substitute. Forcing players to use two different devices just to chat with their friends is dumb. If Nintendo wants to continue to charge for this service, we need built-in voice chat to the Switch. Get with the times. Also, where are game invites? Seriously, every other online service has this. Even the Switch offers it for certain titles, so why can't I invite my friends to boot up something like Mario Kart or Smash? One of the biggest problems we have with Switch Online is that it's often needlessly complicated. We get friend codes instead of gamer tags, room IDs instead of invites, and a phone app instead of an actual voice chat. There are several games on the Switch with actual online features. For example, games like Fortnite have built-in invite systems and built-in voice chat. If Nintendo wants to make a modern console, they need to recognize that they are still behind and address all these inconveniences. And lastly, this one's mainly just for fun, but I would love to see achievements. Again, every other major console offers this, and for good reason. It makes games so much more replayable and allows you to see your friends' progress, making even single-player games feel that much more social. The Switch has so many exclusive games that would be perfect for achievements, and it could even be incorporated with an NSO online app and allow you to redeem points for your achievements for custom icons, banners, or even themes if they add those in. I just want more features that are modern and match the capabilities of something like Xbox Live or Steam, and while I guess this might cost a bit more, I'd rather pay more for a service that's actually good than pay less for a service that doesn't really work half the time. This is the most important one on this list. Nothing else really matters if we don't get backwards compatibility. It's pretty obvious why the Switch doesn't have backwards compatibility for the Wii U, but if we're getting a new Switch, there's no great reason why they shouldn't offer it. Backwards compatibility allows this new console to have a massive library off rip, and obviously this should still offer support for Switch cartridges, but also allow you to download your digital games. You can already do this if you own multiple Switches, and I have no reason why this wouldn't be allowed on Switch too. Just pivoting back to NSO for a bit, I hope the library of retro games we have makes a return at launch. I just don't want to have to wait for games like Jelly Boy or Spanky's Quest to roll out over several years when it should take virtually no effort to put these games on the new console. Again, Nintendo said they want this new console to be an easy transition for previous Switch owners. However, actions speak louder than words, and the biggest thing they could do to help us achieve this would be allowing people to use their old game cartridges, re-download old games from the eShop, and also maintain their current library of NSO titles instead of starting over and just slowly rolling everything out again. Stronger hardware is one of the most obvious improvements for a new Switch. After all, what makes a new console if not for the hardware upgrades? We can pretty much guarantee that this next console will be a more powerful Switch. There are all sorts of rumors going around for this next console's performance. Ray tracing support, DLSS, faster load times. All these are great, but what the Switch mainly needs, at least, is the ability to play almost every game at a consistent 60 FPS. I don't even need to go into the recent Pokemon titles, as those are prime examples of Switch games that should not be having performance issues that do, but the Switch has had problems with inconsistent frame rates ever since the beginning. It launched with Breath of the Wild, which had inconsistent frame rate and a bunch of pop-in. Xenoblade Chronicles has that as well. We do not need another generation of frame drops, and this absolutely needs to be addressed for the next console. Even if you're not a frame rate snob or don't care about 4K visuals, you cannot be against this, as better hardware just leads to more third-party support. Yes, the Switch can play a lot of third-party titles, but most games do not also release on the Switch. There was a rumor a while ago that said a port of the Final Fantasy VII Remake was in development for the Switch 2, and that it had somewhat similar performance to the PS5 version. If this is anywhere true, it would be massive. The ability to play most third-party titles, even if they're big games, would completely change everything and would be so interesting to see on a Nintendo console, because Nintendo hasn't really been on par with its rivals when it comes to hardware specs for a long time. When I say heavy hitters, what I mean is big games. The ones that make people want to purchase a new console. The Switch had immediate success, and a lot of that was due to its large lineup of launch games that were released at launch and then throughout its first year. Games like Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, ARMS, which was a new IP. Now, of course, a brand new Mario Kart title or new 3D Mario game would make a new system worthwhile to hardcore Nintendo fans, but they can go beyond that. Even with its current massive library, the Switch still feels like it's missing a few games. For example, Metroid Prime 4 has been in development purgatory for essentially the entire lifespan of the Switch. That series is the perfect showcase for the graphical capabilities of a new console. I mean, just look at the remaster of the first title in the series, a 4K Ultra HD Metroid Prime 4 with potential ray tracing and DLSS support. Let's just be honest, that would be perfect for Switch 2. Another game that could release fairly soon is a new Donkey Kong title. The Switch doesn't really have a Donkey Kong game to claim as its own, as Tropical Freeze is just a port. It's kind of strange that they're yet to make a new DK game because the series is pretty massive. Obviously, Kart 9 or Odyssey 2 would be huge, but we also need a well-rounded library. We can't just get a bunch of Mario games and a bunch of JRPGs. This is a great opportunity for Nintendo to revive some series that were just missing from the Switch's life. The Switch has a substantial library, but it's no secret that the Wii U's poor performance contributed to this. A lot of the Wii U's best titles were given a second chance on Switch and have even become some of the Switch's best-selling games. However, a Switch 2 would not have that advantage because it's probably going to be backwards compatible, and Switch games already sold extremely well, so people aren't going to be jumping at the bit to buy them again. Because of that, their ports are going to have to require a little bit more effort. Best thing is, we've kind of been getting this. Metroid Prime Remastered got the full remake treatment, and even 3DS games like Luigi's Mansion 2 look way better than their purely handheld counterparts. Nintendo needs to take this and run with it with some of their best games ever. Like, imagine a 4K remaster of Ocarina of Time that would give modern audiences the chance to experience this game for the first time, or even remake some still somewhat modern games like Kid Icarus Uprising. That game's a hidden gem and people would love it on modern hardware. Of course, it would take a while to completely remap the controls because it was made for 2 screens plus a stylus, but not gonna lie, we're at the point where people would appreciate the more effort being put into these ports rather than just, oh, here's a game you've already played but deluxe, maybe a, couple new content or characters that you haven't played yet. When I say apps, I don't even necessarily mean stuff like Netflix or Discord, which would be cool. I'm literally just talking about the kind of apps you would expect to see on a Nintendo console. I mean, other than playing games, what does the Switch actually do? You're not going to be losing yourself for hours in the screenshot album or screwing around in system settings. Even the Nintendo Switch Online app lags for absolutely no reason. Whatever happened to stuff like the 3DS Badge Arcade, where you could earn badges to decorate your home screen, or Check Me Out channel, where you could enter your Mii's in popularity contests? The Switch has none of that. There's not even an internet browser. That's inexcusable. We need to get one. Maybe they could make an app where you take screenshots or videos from your album and are able to compile them for different montages or funny edits that you could then share on social media. This would be free marketing for Nintendo. There's so many different apps that they could come up with to complement their next console, but honestly, the coolest one to me would be Street Pass. If Nintendo revamped 3DS's Street Pass, I would lose my mind. It won't happen, but I can always dream. At the end of the day, the primary focus of the next console should be its ability to play games, but that doesn't mean it should exclusively just be a gaming machine. Having more apps, or just literally anything to do besides just playing games, it's just charming and enhances the appeal of the console overall. The Switch's portability is iconic and nearly perfectly executed, but the same cannot be said about its dock. The dock is clunky, and it takes up a lot of space that just feels unnecessary. You can buy a third-party dock that is way more convenient and costs less money than the official one, not to mention the official has fairly poor build quality. The back panel is flimsy, and there are reports of the dock scratching the Switch's screen or even warping the console. While there is a lot they could do if they remodeled the dock, I really just want something that's more compact so it's not a complete pain to move everything over if you just want to play on another TV. On top of that, they should definitely keep the Ethernet port from the OLED and maybe even add some more USB ports. Lastly, this is so dumb, but if you ever want to turn off or restart your Switch, you have to actually press the Switch's power button on the console itself, which if you're playing on a TV, is just a hassle. You have to get up and walk over to the dock and press the button. I'm not talking about putting your Switch to sleep mode, I'm talking about fully powering it off. It's not a big deal, but there's literally a giant power icon on the home menu. How can you not completely turn your console off from the console itself instead of having to walk all the way up to the tablet put in dock mode? The Joy-Con are one of the Switch's coolest features. The ability to slide them off and onto the console is so sick, but they also have their fair share of problems. The grip they offer isn't too great, especially if you have bigger hands, and sometimes I would rather have an actual D-pad than the 4 buttons on the left Joy-Con. They could obviously make the controllers more ergonomic, change the button layouts, or add new buttons entirely. But the one thing the Switch absolutely needs to have is no Joy-Con drift. I don't really care if the new controllers are almost identical to the Switch's. In fact, I hope that I'm able to use my past Joy-Con on the Switch too, but Joy-Con drift has sucked from the beginning. Even with some small updates, new controllers are still susceptible to it, and it's not a good look for Nintendo when their products notoriously break after a few months of just using them the way you're supposed to. If we get a new Switch that's supposed to be stronger and have better build quality, this is the first thing that needs to be addressed. This has been one of my biggest gripes about the Switch for a while now. Sometimes Nintendo will handle DLC perfectly, like with the Booster Course Pass for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but sometimes it feels like Nintendo doesn't understand the point of DLC at all. A lot of the free DLC we're getting for games is just stuff that should have been there at launch. Animal Crossing New Horizons got a lot of content that was already in New Leaf. Mario Strikers Battle League launched with the smallest roster in the series and then slowly released more characters. Like at this point, the next Mario Baseball will launch with 8 characters, and in 2 months, Nintendo will give you the ability to have a shortstop on your team. The problem with this DLC is for some games like the aforementioned Animal Crossing and Mario Strikers, the game launches with so little content that when they add stuff in, but it's only stuff that was standard in past games, the new updates are not nearly as exciting as Nintendo hopes they are. And then even when the updates are super cool like Mario Maker 2's World Builder, sometimes those features are just added way too late that unless you've been playing the game the whole time, you're not going to return back for it, or maybe you'll return for like a week. But if that sort of feature was out when the game was popping, everyone was playing it, it had just released and it wasn't dead, it would make more sense. I understand this formula for a game like Splatoon that actually has an active community and needs events to keep that player base, but why does a game like Kirby Star Allies need this kind of DLC? When I buy a game at launch, I want to be able to experience a full game, but anytime DLC gets announced before a game releases, that's usually not a good sign, and unfortunately for Nintendo, this trend has become way too common in recent years, and I hope it dies with the Switch too. Anyway guys, those are the 10 things I think the Nintendo Switch needs. Like, I will be disappointed if it doesn't have everything here. I don't think I'm asking for too much, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. What changes do you want to see? After you're done leaving a comment, click the video on screen right now. It's all about new content and full expansions we could see for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Some of the ideas are crazy, so go check it out.